Unshelling Medicine Podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our episode today. I have the pleasure of having on today's interview Deborah Yager. Deborah is a master trainer in Neuro-Linguistic programming. You've never heard that before? Guess what? You're going to learn today. So pull up a chair because I'm curious as well. Deborah wears many hats. She's going to talk about her businesses and the beautiful things she does. And we are going to learn a few things. We always do. So welcome, Deborah. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing so well. I'm just honored to be on this podcast.
Such a pleasure to have you on. So let's dissect your title, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. That is not something an everyday person talks about.
It is rather jargonistic. So neuro, it's the study of the mind and how we process information. It's a study between the mind-body connection. And then language, linguistics. So it's a study of language, of how to communicate effectively to others because everybody thinks differently. So how do we use our words and our body language in such a way that we connect at a deeper level? And then how do we speak to ourselves? That's a big thing. I really came from a background where I struggled with self-devaluation. I had a big inner critic that was causing all kinds of behavior in my life. And, how do we communicate with ourselves? Are we talking to ourselves in a loving, kind way as a coach, or are we beating ourselves up? And then the programming piece. So how do we easily and automatically unpack and let go of the programming that's no longer serving us? And then how do we install new behaviors, attitudes, belief systems, stories about ourselves to create success? So, in the nutshell, it is the modeling of amazing communication, the modeling of reprogramming and patterning the unconscious mind, and it's a model of excellence. So, the cool thing is that if you find a behavior that somebody's doing really well, you can actually break down the code of what they're doing, and you can train it to yourself, and then shorten the time of learning and replicate yourself or that behavior for anything. So it's a really cool body of knowledge.
It sounds really cool. And, we talked about communication, and that self inner critic is usually the loudest. And we sometimes tend to treat other people better than we treat ourselves. How important is it for somebody to understand that sometimes the voices in your head or the voice in your head may just be the reason why you're stuck where you are?
Right. And I want to give compassion. So if you're sitting there right now thinking that you have an inner critic and you tend to beat yourself up or ruminate and you make a mistake and you're like, oh, why did I do that? And you kick your own behind. I want to give you my perspective of it is that the internal dialogue that's negative, it actually wants you to succeed. It's just that it has had bad training. And it's like a metaphor is like, let's say that you had this amazing Arabian horse that's had a lineage of bad trainers that didn't know any better. They were doing the best they could with the resources they had. But of course, the horse is going to be bucking and kicking and squealing and all the things. And so I believe one of our jobs as being a human on this planet is actually becoming the loving, kind parent to ourselves. And most of us have not been trained that way because perhaps in our environment, we had a very dangerous environment growing up. It was a hostile, unsafe environment for some people. Or perhaps even in a very healthy relationship dynamic, maybe you had a parent that was hard on themselves, or they were hard on you because they wanted you to perform well because they loved you. It's just not the training that for longevity and health is not going to have that behavior. And so once you get in touch with the internal dialogue, we call it parts of our unconscious mind, and start communicating effectively to ourselves, you realize that that part of you actually wants you to succeed. And so you have to train them how to be different. And then before you know it, instead of having the berater, they're the internal cheerleader and the coach that's helping you towards your success. And so it's a game changer because if you have a negative internal dialogue for a long period of time, one of the things we see with people, the psychological roots of disease, that if somebody has had trauma and they have a really internal negative self-talk, over a period of time, it will show up in symptomology in the body. and or it could show up as autoimmune, because think of the metaphor. If you're kicking your own butt internally, then it's going to start showing up as your body's going to start attacking itself. And so this is something in the medical system that's starting to be recognized, not so much always, but in the holistic space, is that there's a huge connection to the longevity and health of the body. And there's a huge correlation between trauma and internal dialogue, because it's not just external toxins that we're bringing in from food or environmental toxins, it's the internal emotional toxins and thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a bit about something that you mentioned earlier, which is learning to talk to people around us and understanding, communication, with people around us. And then you mentioned the parent-child dynamic, where a parent is hard on you because they want you to succeed. Again, children are different, people are different. In a family where, say, out of 4 children, 3 understand that, okay, dad or mom is this way because they really want to set us up to not self-sabotage or to raise to our potential. However, the one child has a difficulty with seeing the picture the way everybody else is seeing it. So how do we address that in a family dynamic? Because that leads to a lot of guilt. Guilt sometimes on the parent side for, maybe being hard on their kids or having a negative interaction as a result. And also on the child side, it could be something associated with I'm not as loved as the rest of the other children because the information is not sinking in. How do we balance that in a family dynamic? And then we'll talk about the workspace.
Yeah. And again, this is case by case. Everybody is different.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating because you'll see two people that grow up in the same environment, like maybe a brother and sister. And
Yeah.
one brother was like, oh my gosh, that mom and dad were so motivating and they're the best parents. And then the sister ends up crumbling and having self devaluation and confidence issues. And so it's really the child, because every person, we are snowflakes. We're
Yeah.
all different. We have different learning styles. We have different strategies. I believe our soul comes in with specific things that we're here to transmute and transform, which what I could say is the shadow. It's like the thing that we're here to work on and develop. But then we also have natural superpowers and gifts that are here that I believe come through adversity. And so it's really just figuring out how to communicate best with the child and activating their superpowers and believing that. I think one of the challenges that we have in society now that I saw in my own childhood was is that I was labeled as disenfranchised. I had a learning disability. I was labeled with ADHD, bipolar, all these different things where I ended up identifying with this label, and I unconsciously started believing that I was not good enough. I wasn't worthy enough. I was never going to amount to anything. And so that started projecting into my reality. And so if I could say anything about parenting, and I'm not a parent, I am a fur baby parent. I've learned to parent myself and undo a lot of this stuff. But I would say that believe infinite possibilities in your child and figure out what is empowering for them. What is their goal? What is the thing that lights them up? Because I think a lot of times in society, we've been taught go to school, get a good job, and this is going to equal happiness. And yes, for some people, but I also think there's a lot of children that are coming in right now that they're on a different path.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to be more readily available and talented in art or whatever it is for them, and find out what's passionate for them and what their superpower is and really cultivate that instead of trying to stick them in a box of what everybody says you should be. That's just my perspective, because I think that humans are dynamic and we really need to stop trying to shove a square peg in a round hole and really figure out what is the internal motivation and driver for the child. And once you figure that out, it's really easy to get a child motivated. We've had quite a few in the early on of our training. We had a couple of 13-year-olds that came through our training, and one of them was really struggling to get good grades. He was a great soccer player. And so he was a kinesthetic learner. He learned by doing and moving his hands and doing the spatial awareness kind of stuff. But sitting in a classroom all day was totally not his style of learning. And so we taught him this amazing in the moment trance state. It's called peripheral vision. And we also helped him set goals to do really good in school so he could do his soccer and be able to continue on the path with that. And just because somebody believed in him, his grades went from like C's all the way up to A's with a very short amount of time. So I think I would say believe in the kid because the kids are extraordinary. And then also let go of anything. This is that thing that I hear a lot from parents is like, now that I know this stuff, I feel so bad about how I raised my kids, blah, blah, blah. I truly believe that your children at some level with God or higher divine chose you as their parents, knowing that you are going to be the way you're going to be, to then grow through that, to then find themselves later on. I think there is no mistakes. I think that we all are here to transform each other with the bad decisions we make. As long as we learn from it, it is a win.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, and it's great for parents of teenagers to hear this as well. Because when you're in the thick of things, it feels like it's a battle, but you don't have to fight it. You don't have to battle it. Just go with the flow, as difficult as that may be. You just validated something for me, and I thank you. Thank you so much. So let's transcend that conversation into a client conversation, say in the healthcare space or in a coaching space. We all have our individual ways of approaching people or coaching or teaching or mentoring. So what is the best way for a coach or mentor to approach, not from a business standpoint, but to approach a client relationship?
Again, I go back to infinite possibilities and expecting miracles. So, this is one of the things I'm super passionate about. How we certify coaches and we certify a lot of facilitators in these different modalities we use. And one of the presuppositions, which means a belief system that you hold in your mind, is the person is infinite in their possibility. Unless, if you don't believe in them, you must refer them out. And so, when somebody's sitting across from me and they tell me about the trauma they've had, and some of this stuff is like stuff you don't want to hear. It's really unfortunate that people can be so terrible to each other. And so you're listening to these stories and you're listening to the list of symptomology and the diagnoses and all the different things, or the limitations or the prison that they unconsciously put themselves in with limiting belief systems. And for me, I look at them and I get excited because I know that no matter what somebody's gone through in their life, they can shift everything very quickly. Should they take radical self ownership for everything in their life, if they have the right tools, the right container, meaning people around them that love them and support them, that believe in their possibility. And a perfect example is this. Back in 2011, I was rock bottom in all areas of life. I was in and out of a very terrible career that was completely wrong for me. I had an identity that I used to call myself a loser magnet. I was in and out of very abusive relationships. The way that I would leave relationships is them going to prison. So this is giving you a context of the world that I believed that I deserved. I also was a drug addict, or I believed I was. Therefore, I was creating the behavior for over 16 years, whether it be food, sex, drugs, alcohol. I couldn't fill this pit that I had inside, that I was disgusting, that I was broken, I was not lovable. And the career that I was telling you about, I was a sex worker and a stripper. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I didn't believe that I was worthy enough to do anything else. And so when I'm talking about with the containers, I prayed to God to get myself out of the situation. And as soon as I asked for help, two people came in my life that shifted my life. They invited me into the training that I do now with people to radically shift their life. And it changed everything for me. I met my husband a year later, and they would tell me when I would try to go back into my old pattern, like I'm not good enough, I can't do this, all these can'ts and whys, I couldn't have my life the way I wanted. They would say, "You are amazing. I believe in you. I see you. We love you. We know that you're infinitely possible. Everything that your heart desires, you can create." And I'm telling you, back then, if you told me that I'd be living the life that I'm living, I couldn't see that. But they could see the possibility in me. And they're willing to consistently tell me and reassure me and coach me to let go of the trauma and the drama and the baggage that I was carrying around with an identity that was holding me back, and over a period of time shifted things very easily. And now I've been helping people do the same thing. And so I have a belief system of unwavering faith that no matter what a background of somebody has, no matter the trauma or the pain or the suffering, they can take their power back and they can use it as a catalyst for change. Because when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, like seriously, when you walk through that pain and you come out the other side, you freaking have a story. to
Yeah.
share with others. And I get so excited about that.
Yeah. And I can see that excitement in you. And that's such a beautiful journey to not only have your journey, but also help others on their journey. It's such a selfless thing to do. So kudos to you, bravo to you. And it is quite incredible when people do that. I don't have another word to use. So
Thank
let's
you.
talk about owning your stuff, owning you, owning these habits and these things that you've created and you've now embodied. That is not such an easy journey for most people because it forces confrontation with, your reality. So as opposed to it being a beautiful, seamless, brand new ball of yarn, is like a whole old, wrinkled up, overused ball of yarn. Because it's a complicated journey, it's a complicated thing to be honest with yourself. You rather just, I'm fine. I can't do it anyway. So it's better. This journey is better for somebody else. So how
Right.
was that journey for you having to confront those things that were scary? Because it's not easy confronting yourself.
Yeah, I talk about the second chapter and it keeps unfolding, of course. But when I met
Yeah.
my husband in training, he helped me get out of the environment. And for the very first time, I had to face myself. I actually had to grow up because I was a child. I had been a child. I started doing that shenanigans and that work when I was 16, 17. So I moved away from home at a very young age. And so I was a child. And so I had to grow up. So everything of even making your bed every day was a task for me because before that I was taking Adderall and all types of stuff to put me to sleep, get me up, wire me up to do things. And so it was retraining myself to actually do daily things that most people do automatically. And so I have a lot of compassion for people that really struggled with rewiring the behaviors of habits. And it doesn't have to be as hard as you think it can. It can be a lot easier with the right tools. That's what NLP is so great for, is that it's really great for rewiring habits
Mm.
and stacking that. And so I did a lot of transformation work and I had somebody that was supporting me and holding space for me to move through the trauma and the drama that I had created for myself. And he also held me accountable. And so I'm going to say that in the first part of our relationship, we struggled a lot. And thank goodness we had the tools because we probably wouldn't be married today. But he
Mhm.
called me the F out, girl, because I had this like huge victim consciousness.
We need that. Okay, let's talk about that. How important is it to have somebody in your life who's not worried about your ego, but rather
Right,
your potential? Because I think we get used to people feeding our ego as humans, right? Whisper the sweet nothings. However,
right.
someone's like, okay, come on, stop it, right? How important is that to have that person that will call you out? It's like, yeah, your ego will take care of it another time, but this is it. How important is that?
I would say that's one of the number one things, even as a high performance coach, as a
Yeah.
leader, as a teacher, as a mentor, holding people to a high standard, but doing it with love. It's coming from the heart space. It's no, I'm not gonna stand for that. I know that you can do better and I believe in you. And this is how I'm gonna support you in that. And for me, that was for the first time, I had never been held accountable because I grew up in an environment that there was a lot of enablement. And so the more problems you had, I thought that equals love and attention. So unraveling that construct was quite a task. It took so many years of bucking the process and it's still growing because we're so
Yeah,
unconscious about what we don't know. Like I'm still on the path just like you are. And so I tell my clients and my students that we're all on the path and there's layers upon layers of releasing the identities and the fixations around who we think we are. In reality, we're so much more than that. And so being around people in a community and a mastermind and a program and or have a coach that constantly is showing you that next level with kindness and grace and then showing you how to get there is really important.
absolutely. I agree. And yeah, you need that accountability person. So health wise, we're talking mind, body, and the mind body soul connection or the mind body spirit, whatever you want to call it, whatever works for you. Sometimes, I know a lot of us are talking about this, but sometimes people struggle to grasp the effect that this has in manifesting in this casing. So what has been your experience with that in actually helping people have that mindset shift that what you think, and the toxins in behavior, the toxin in grudges, the toxins in not being able to let go can manifest in heart disease, GI issues, kidney issues, metabolic issues of different kinds. What has been your experience with that and in coaching people and leading people down that journey?
Oh, it's magical. So, just the other training that we did, we had a whole bunch of practitioners in there. This specific woman, she's a psychologist, psychotherapist, and she had over 50 years of back pain. I don't even know what that would feel like. She started having back pain when she was 5 years old. And it was connected with a diagnosis of scoliosis, and it was connected to trauma. And we did this process. It's called the pain paradigm. And it goes off the basis of Dr. John Sarno. I don't know if you know heard of him, but he's a back surgeon that did it for many years and then called up all of his patients and realized most of them had not been successful with the back surgery. And sometimes it was even worse. And so he wrote a little book called, I think it's Neck and Back Pain. So it's basically saying that if the pain persists after some sort of accident after 8 weeks, it's because there's trapped negative emotions of which the person is not aware of. And so this process has people tap into their emotions and really feel their emotions. And we've had people lose chronic pain that they've had for 50 years, 40 years, even after an accident. We had one gentleman that was in a car accident. He had pins in his hip. We're all free of this. He was using all kinds of like morphine patches and severe narcotics to numb the pain, but it wasn't working, and down to a zero. So it's like when you tap into the blueprint, which is the unconscious mind that rules the body, it wants you to be healthy and vital. The reason why it's creating the pain is it's asking you to pay attention to the emotions. And so once people start paying attention to their emotions, the chronic pain go away. So that's one thing that we've seen over the years. We had another gal that had practitioner as well. She was a very successful practitioner. And it's so funny because I would see her when we do trainings, we spend a week together, we see each other like in our habits and our behaviors. And she was doing everything right. She was working out, eating really clean food, doing everything. But there was this inflammation. So Brandon and I kept talking like, what's going on with her? I can feel something energetically. And she had this massive breakthrough. And she'll share this openly that her grandfather had sexually abused her when she was 5 for a couple of years. And it was connected to deep rooted trauma that she was not aware of. And when we helped her release it, one of the clients in the training did breakthrough work with her. She's lost 30 pounds just like that, not really changing anything. And so it's just the miracles like that. We've seen thyroid connected to powerless conflict, not speaking your truth. We've seen urinary tract infections connected with territorial conflict. We've seen skin stuff connected to separation, wanting to be separated from something or feeling separated, like when you don't want to be. Endless things that when people get to the root cause of it, of the original trauma that's in the physiological part of the body, but it's also an energetic field,
Yeah.
then the body can get back to homeostasis and it wants to heal. In fact, we believe the unconscious mind is bringing it up to your awareness and communication through symptomology and disease or pain. It's just that we're not taught to listen to our body in that way. And so it's a different type of language. But once you understand the language, it's really easy to work with the body and create amazing results.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the medical side. I'm glad you brought up the doctor, the surgeon, about talking about the surgeries that if it doesn't heal in a certain time, then there's trapped negative emotions. Okay. In healthcare today, more and more practitioners are integrating holistic and integrative care into their practices for things like you just eloquently mentioned: chronic disease management, chronic pain, things that are idiopathic, because if we don't know what is going on, we name it idiopathic, whatever. Things that are idiopathic in nature in healthcare. So what is your take in healthcare, modern healthcare as we know it, embracing holistic and integrative approach in treatment? Healthcare doesn't like the word healing, but that's fine. Integrating it into treatment for wellness, because we all got into practicing healthcare because we want to help. We want to get people to wellness. We want the body to achieve homeostasis, like you've stated. How important is that, given that there's been plenty of evidence to show, medical evidence, medical articles published about the effectiveness of letting go and releasing negativity and the effect on health.
Yeah. I think it's really promising. I think it is opening up more to the general public. A lot of the people that we're working with are already in holistic. Maybe their background is chiropractics, homeopathy, naturopath doctors, or energy medicine doctors. And I think it's becoming more mainstream. I think that doctors and nurses get into healthcare because they want to help, but I do think that the system is intrinsically broken. And it's been bought and paid for, unfortunately, by the pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies. And so they get in, they spend all this time getting a degree, coming in because they want to be a healer and support people in their longevity and health, and then they realize that they're stuck in this hamster wheel. And so what I see happening, I think it's going to change in the next 10 years. I think the people are going to force it to change by voting with their dollars. And I think people are going to start searching out more of a holistic approach. And so the people that are stuck in the system, they either will figure out how to incorporate it in the already made system, or you'll see people leaving the system and starting their own practice. And I see that happening right now, which is really
Mhm.
exciting because I truly believe the holistic health model is going to be birthed forth in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's happening and it's gaining momentum. When you're talking about a career satisfaction, you spend this time and money and effort uh, studying to help people. However, if you feel like you're not fulfilled in that role, you're going to look for something else or something that brings that fulfillment. And I'm seeing a lot of that in the healthcare space, doctors and nurses, you name it, and different specialties within healthcare. But in a way of working together, what would you say to those medical practitioners who are very, very much steeped in, the system that we have today and they still refer to, holistic integrative naturopathic healing as woo-woo science? What would you say to those practitioners?
Are you talking about people that are already, like, working in the hospital? Or are you talking about people that are already doing, like, their own? Because we've worked with people, nurse practitioners that have their own business and
Right.
or doctors, or are they working for, like, a hospital? Because they
Uh-huh.
have a little bit more box around them where they
Yeah.
work.
So people that have their own businesses and function in the holistic integrative spaces. What I'm seeing more and more is that doctors and nurses and advanced practitioners, I should say, who have their own practices established are more naturopathic in their mindset in treating and more holistic and integrative in their treatment approaches. However, the established based providers, establishment like hospital systems, pharmaceuticals, big guys, there's usually some pushback. That is rapidly changing too. Credit where
Right.
credit is due. There's usually some pushback, especially with maybe some doctors that have been in practice for however many years, or they're very focused on modern medicine and innovating in certain ways as opposed to innovating in the holistic integrative aspect of things. So what do we say to those practitioners to build that collaboration, to have them also see that what you're doing is great, beautiful. However, we can also do this in addition to actually help people live a more fulfilled life and wellness.
Right, because I like to stay away from, like, traditional allopathic, I guess, a lack of a better explanation, that's how I compartmentalize it.
Right.
Modern medicine versus, holistic medicine, energy medicine, and then the coaching model inside of that, that's like another piece of it as well. I don't wanna do either or, it's like yes and.
Yes.
And so if somebody is very happy in their position, but sees the opportunity to work with a nutritionist that's going to give somebody a better diet, and then working with perhaps a life coach that's going to help optimize their behavior so they stay on client protocols and they go to the gym and they start talking to themselves nicely, or perhaps have a referral base with a therapist if they need some trauma release work. So have your people that you refer back and forth to if you want to stay in your own lane. And then there's some doctors that we are working with that they're in their lane and they're doing regenerative medicine. And let's say that they're also doing naturopathic
Mhm.
as a doctor, protocols, all that kind of stuff. And then they send their nurse practitioners or their coaches through our program to add in these mindset shift tools and trauma release tools. So they have people getting that with inside their organization. So you can have all of it. Or if you just want to stay in your lane and then again have people that you trust and love around you, then refer each other back and forth. That works too. So we're all raising together and the vibration and not pointing the finger one is better than the other. It really is case by case because modern medicine saves lives. I
Yes,
don't think it's the greatest for longevity, staying on pharmaceuticals forever. That's my perspective. And I do think it's necessary for some people. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's collaborate.
absolutely. The collaboration, that's the piece that
Mm.
I really wanted us to talk about because the doctors that understand that, hey, this is my lane. However, I do believe in what you do and I do believe what you do can help my patients. So here's a referral, help this person out, or, I want you to work with me in helping this person. But there are also practitioners that, are still on the verge of not wanting to hear about it. So as opposed to, like you said, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, step by step, drip, drip, fill the bucket. It's a matter of having people understand that they're valued in the space that they're in. There's no replacement of you. However, there are other things that we can incorporate to serve the population that we're serving.
Right.
Let's talk about you, what you do, your business specifically, what you can offer people. Because I would like for people to find you, your website, social media. You just said you wrapped up a retreat. Please, if you don't mind talking about it, I would appreciate it. So people can
Yes.
understand how energetic this thing is.
Yeah, so we do all kinds of stuff. So we have a whole online certification program for practitioners that are wanting to add these tools to their toolkit to be serving people in a different level when it comes to mindset, emotional health, spiritual health, and behavior. And then we also do retreats. So my husband and I, we do retreats here in Utah. We also have destination retreats in Tulum, Guatemala. We just got back from Egypt. It
Nice.
just really depends on how you want to plan your adventure. A starting place with us is called what we call your vision alchemy. And I think there's a lot of fear right now that's going on and very much uncertainty. And some of the things we talk to people that are in their life or even entrepreneurs and business owners, I'm so uncertain of the future. I don't have clarity. And so the purpose of this event is getting in line with your big soul's mission purpose, why you're here. I think it's even beyond our career. It's beyond like the things that we do from day to day. It's like, why are you here on this planet? I truly believe that everybody that's on this planet is here to make a difference, to raise a vibration and transform humanity and connection with the mother planet. And so it's getting aligned with your future vision and then clearing out the baggage. The reason why people don't dream big is because they have fear, doubt. They don't want to fail. They're sometimes afraid of success. They have all this cultural programming of what you should do in order to be successful or what that means. And so it's clearing out the baggage of this lifetime and or passed down through the generations, clearing that stuff out that's holding us back from really stepping into our true potential and then getting aligned with our values. Our values are what unconsciously motivate us. When we have our values aligned with our mission, our goal, our vision for the future, everything starts flowing. Stuff starts coming in with divine ease. It's easy to manifest a profitability, abundance, health, wealth, great relationships when all of that is in alignment. And so that's the first place to start with us. We're having that in person. It's coming up at the end of January. You can check it out on our site. We do that about 4 times a year. And then we have our level one breakthrough mastery. We also have a speaker boot camp because a lot of the people that we work with are wanting to get on stages to share their message and their vision of, how they can support people. So we do all kinds of stuff.
I love it. So when it comes to the healing, going on this journey, and the one thing humans have a lot of is excuses.
Right.
So Deborah, you did not have to agree on that.
I mean, I had a lot of excuses. I would tell you every reason why I couldn't have what I wanted. Like I had to be sold into my greatness constantly back in the day.
So for our listeners who are, so busy with work, so busy with family, so busy with responsibilities, whatever that may be, busy with your businesses. However, they have this longing that, you know what, I really do need this. What's the message to them?
So The thing is that if you let that voice get in way with the internal voice of your higher divine, your soul that's speaking to and whispering to you every single day, driving you to your true purpose and why you're here on this planet to serve and create massive abundance and wealth, you will be in the same situation that you are now in the next 6 months to a year, or sometimes it even gets worse. And so I invite you to see past those limitations. Those are just stories that are not even yours. I would say most people are running around with other people's belief systems. I call it BS because that's really what it is. It's limiting belief systems that are holding us back. And what would you be without all of those BS things? And I'm telling you from my heart because I did the same thing. When I had somebody come in my life and they're like, come to this 3 day or started with a 3 day event. They're like, you can have everything that you want in your life. You can find your divine partner. You can have all these different things. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I don't have this and I can't do this and I don't have the money and all this stuff. And I don't have the time, knowing that I had $15,000 of mattress money that I wasn't talking about. But that, that was besides the point because I just had this operation of poverty mindset that I couldn't afford anything. And so the things, the thinking and the feeling that got you in the box of where you are right now is not going to get you outside the box. And so I invite people to step outside the box. And when you do, everything starts to transform. And I believe in you. I know that you can have what you want, and you are so much more than you think you are currently. The fact of the matter is, you can't even label how amazing you are. Literally, whatever label you say, I'm a master trainer, I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, whatever, you are so much more than that because you are divine essence. And this is my belief system in the physical form. You would not have a body if you were not worthy to be here, if you didn't have something big to share with the world.
Talk about a call out. Hello.
I love you.
Talk about call out. Deborah called all of us out. My goodness, today. She didn't even, no holding hands, nothing. It wasn't soft. And she just did. She said she loved us. So we believe
Yeah,
her.
I love you because I love myself. And I'm
We
talking
love
to
you.
myself, by the way, because we're always growing. I'm calling myself out right now for the next level of success. And
Yes.
so we're all on this journey together.
It's such a beautiful thing that, you do have different services and different things that people can get involved. So for the practitioners, people that are in the wellness health space, so there's something in nursing we call personal knowing. You may not know it all the way, but you know there's a piece missing or there's a hole somewhere. How important is it for you to figure out that hole and mend it before going on a journey to heal others? Or do you think a person can be on their journey because this journey is continuous, it never ends? Do
Right.
you feel that a person can heal themselves in the process of helping others?
Absolutely. And this is one of the things that, our nurse practitioners and different types of practitioners, as well as coaches, I struggled with it. I was an imposter. I was like, who am I to be teaching this? I didn't even finish school. I tested out of my graduation for high school. And so, like, who am I to be doing this? Right? And that's exactly why you're meant to be doing it. First of all, is because you are real, you're raw, and you have authenticity and you have life experiences. And so, from my perspective, as long as you're continually to grow, as long as you're constantly working on yourself and you're a couple of steps ahead of the person, then you're ready because you've walked through the path of it and you already have the strategies to support people. In the coaching space, it's different than in the doctoring space or in the health space in a lot of ways because it's all about your own personal experience. It's different than therapy because we share our own personal strategies through the transmutation of what we've learned to help lift the people that we're working with. And so I'm constantly growing from my clients and they're constantly growing from me. And that will always be the case. And if I feel like somebody is in a situation where I can't serve them because I'm limited by my capacity, then it's out of integrity to work with them. But if you know in your heart that you could help them, absolutely. In fact, I think it's rude not to share what you do if you know you can help them. And that's a whole nother sales conversation because I believe sales is a spiritual process.
Right.
And that's another thing practitioners really struggle with selling what they do because
Oh,
they have some ick around it. We can talk about that on another podcast.
yeah, let's make room to talk about that because it is very difficult to, especially if you're in a space to help, if you
Right.
have a gift to help. It's very difficult. There's almost like a bit of a guilt that almost like I'm not supposed to be profiting from this. But where did that come from? That's a different conversation. And please, Deborah, let's have it another time.
I could go down way far on that rabbit hole. I'm excited to have that conversation. I get all fired up about that too.
Let's have that conversation because it's hard for certain people. I know for myself to price myself, it is very difficult for me. So I am a sucker for just knowledge and getting all the yumshus I can get from you. So as we wrap up our conversation, the one thing I usually ask of my guest is that please, do you have more golden nuggets or at least one golden nuggets to leave our listeners with? What would you like somebody who's listening to us today, whether they identify themselves as needing this healing and this transformation, or they have somebody in their life that they know would benefit from,
Mm.
tapping into the authentic self and living to their fulfillment?
Yeah. I would say I believe that our soul comes here to learn. And through that learning, we make a lot of mistakes. A lot of people struggle with perfectionism, which I did too. Hello, I'm a healed perfectionist. Now I do my best to be an excellentist and or perfectly imperfect. I do that really well because I make a lot of mistakes. And people will look at successful people and they'll assume that they don't make mistakes, but they've actually made way more
Mm,
mistakes than the person that isn't successful in that area. And we learn and grow through mistakes. In fact, the word perfection comes from the Greek word teleosis, which means spiritual wholeness and completion.
mm,
And so the only way to get that from my perspective is go out there and fail forward fast, learn from it, recalibrate, and get over it again. And so, my suggestion to you is the suggestion that I told myself a long time ago: is stop taking yourself so seriously.
mm.
Have fun, go out there and fail, learn from it, and do it over again and take lots of inspired action. Because the more inspired action you do, the more doorways will open up, the more learnings and wisdoms you get. It's just amazing how your life can transform as long as you get out of your own way.
Get out of your way. Make those mistakes. Fail forward, she said.
Get messy. Get messy.
That is funny and messy. Why? I absolutely appreciate you saying that because culturally, societal expectations and all of those things have mucked up, our outlook on what this human experience is supposed to be. You're supposed to make those mistakes, but learn from it and do your very best not to repeat it. And I've gotten into this thing that I'm so thankful that I found it when I found it. As when something happens, and one of my friends said this to me, that when something happens, it didn't happen to you. It happened. So you can learn from it. So I've gotten into a habit of what did this experience teach me? What was this experience supposed to or meant to teach me? And what did I learn from it? And that has really shifted the war is me kind of, I don't want to call it a mentality, but it kind of sort of is. It's like, okay, this happened. Didn't like it. It did not happen. But however, what did I learn from it? What did this situation come to teach me? So that has helped me. And you talking about failing and failing forward and learning from it aligns with that so much.
100%. And honestly, that's the basis of everything that we do is that you always find that we call it the gift within the garbage. It's happening for me, not to me.
Yeah.
And it gives you radical self ownership. And again, I believe everything that we attract in our life is to be a mentor in the mirror,
Mm.
right? It's to show us things that are unconscious about ourselves, but it's also the things that you love in your life. That is you too. So the things you attract that you don't like, there's opportunities to grow. The things that you love, then that is you. And so it's a constant mirror system of learning and growing, which makes this a fun game. Again, not taking it so freaking seriously.
I like fun game. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Thank you for what you do. And
Thank
yes, if you did not catch the website, we'll make sure it's in the show notes. You can click in and find Deborah Yager. Look, research, do what you need to do. Learning about yourself can be scary, but I promise you it's very worth it. Once you learn to be comfortable in your own head in silence, it's so beautiful. I'm still learning, still growing. I'm not there yet. However, when people like Deborah bless the earth with their presence and their gift, I'm very appreciative of it because I've learned so much more from just having a conversation today. You validated a lot of things for me, and thank you for what you do, Deborah.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. And I'm honored to be here.
I'm grateful for your presence. Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening. Let us know what you think. Yeah.
Yes.
I know you may know a few people that may need help, but approach it with compassion. Where do you need help?
Yeah, again, what we think of others is something inside of ourselves, which is a fascinating game too.
Those fingers always point back, don't they? Yeah.
Exactly. I'm just talking to myself over here.
So, take care of yourself, everybody. Please, please, please let us know what you think. And yeah, it feels like we're going to come back and talk about this self-selling thing because it's a conversation that must be had. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Deborah, again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.